Understanding Recall Healing Through the Royals, Part 1, Project Purpose. The past few years have been some of the hardest and challenging periods of my life. In order to heal and move on, I sought the help of professionals to manage my care. During this time, I came across a healing modality called Recall Healing. Recall healing is a multifaceted therapy tool that takes into account a person's first 2.5 years of life, birth order, cycle of autonomy, diseases, and more to uncover the missing pieces of a person's healing puzzle. In order to gain some insight into recall healing, I will briefly cover 4 areas: project purpose, cycle of autonomy, family tree, and finally, physical ailments. Disclaimer: recall healing is not meant to be a standalone therapy option, but a complement to your standard of care. Recall healing encompasses more than what I will discuss at this time. To fully deep dive and properly grasp these concepts, purchase the Recall Healing Pyramid of Health, attend one of the many workshops provided throughout the year, or work with a recall healing facilitator. Links in bio for more detail. The project purpose. One of the hardest areas of recall healing to understand is a person's project purpose. Project purpose covers the first 2.5 years of life. Everything that the child's biological parents feel, think, say, or experience in the first 2.5 years is recorded within a child's DNA. These first 30 months of life will unconsciously be replayed by the child until they are aware of this cycle. The first 30 months of life equates to 9 months before conception, the conception itself, 9 months of pregnancy, and the first year of life. So 9 plus 9 plus 12 is the 30. What the child's biological parents were experiencing before, during conception, and 12 months after pregnancy becomes the child's destiny to unconsciously replay. So, to further understand project purpose, we'll look into Queen Victoria's first 30 months of life. Born Alexandrina Victoria on May 24, 1819, Queen Victoria's existence came as a result of the death of her cousin, Charlotte Augusta, who died while giving birth to a stillborn son. The death of Charlotte and her child created a succession crisis, as there were no legitimate heirs to inherit the British throne. In order to encourage the birth of a legitimate heir, Parliament paid the sons of King George III to marry suitable partners and produce a monarch. Before the death of Charlotte Augusta, Victoria's father, Edward, had no interest in marrying, as he lived comfortably with his mistress for years. Due to his enormous debts and family deaths, he was enticed to produce an heir. So he ditched his mistress, married Marie Louise Victoria, and in 1 year, the future monarch, Queen Victoria, was born. To save money, Edward lived in Germany, but in order for Victoria's birth to count and be legitimate, he and his wife raced back to England so she could be born there. Tragically, 8 months after Victoria's birth, her father died of pneumonia. 6 days later, her grandfather, King George III, died too. 1 month after Queen Victoria's first birthday, she was baptized. So let's summarize key points from Victoria's first 30 months of life. 1. Queen Victoria was only born because of the death of her cousin. 2. Her father had a debt to clear and was essentially bribed by Parliament to produce an heir. So he was enticed to marry and birth a future monarch, Queen Victoria. 3rd, Victoria's existence was necessary to keep the monarchy alive. Lastly, she was christened and baptized during her project purpose. There were several key deaths during her first 30 months of life. It was Charlotte Augusta, Queen Charlotte, her grandmother, her father Edward, Duke of Kent, and a few days later after her father, her grandfather, King George III, died as well. Within her first 30 months of life are the repetitive themes of legitimacy, succession, financial stability, and death. Since continuing the British monarchy was heavily programmed into her DNA at this time, it is no wonder that Queen Victoria was dubbed the grandmother of Europe, as she produced 9 children, had 42 grandchildren who held prominent titles throughout Europe, and to this day, her bloodline can be found in the few remaining monarchies in the world. During her years as monarch, the British Empire was near the height of its power. Its population more than tripled, and land-wise, the British Empire's territory was massive. Unfortunately, the urgency of her birth programmed the disease of hemophilia into her and future bloodlines. This will be discussed more in detail in part 4. However, two of the factors that programmed hemophilia into Queen Victoria's DNA are the need for legacy, which we covered, and lacking the touch from her father. So, just to reiterate, Victoria was born to continue the legacy due to the untimely death of her cousin, Princess Charlotte, and 8 months after Queen Victoria was born, her father, Edward, Duke of Kent, died of pneumonia. During her reign, she also lost key people, most notably her husband Albert, whose death plunged her into a lifelong depression. She was also predeceased by 3 of her children, Alice, Leopold, and Alfred. We'll get into in another video how names can play a part into the unfinished business that you can carry. But her namesake and firstborn child, Empress Victoria, died 7 months after Queen Victoria from breast cancer. To hear more about Queen Victoria's Project Purpose, listen to my podcast with special guest Dr. Michelle Lamasa Dawson. Till next time.